Hello, everyone. Welcome back to
Wooed Up.
That was a little thugalicious.
I liked it.
That was a little too much. Okay, that was a little much.
I'm here for it. Keep it in.
I'm so excited to be back, though. That's what it is.
I'm nervous to be back.
Why are you nervous?
I don't know. I guess I haven't been here for a bit.
It's been a little bit, and guys, don't judge us. We promise you, life has just been lifing. Mercury retrograde has been Mercury retrograde. Exactly.
Mercury's been happening.
Yeah, Mercury's been in microwave, and we're going to talk about that actually in today's episode.
Episode 7. Damn, we're getting up there. Lucky number 7.
Yeah.
But this episode 7, is about the integration of that retreat.
Yes.
And what we learned there and everything that we talked about in episode 5 and 6 and how we've been integrating that experience into our lives in the last, it's been like what, a month?
Yeah.
Month and a half?
A month and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot has happened.
A ton.
Yeah.
Including Mercury in retrograde for 3 weeks.
Mercury in microwave. Yeah. Yeah. That took me through a crazy place.
Yeah.
But the reason, go ahead.
I was gonna say kind of same.
Yeah. We were both going through it, just in our own separate ways.
Yeah, but I think that, I mean, what a hard time to have an integration period during Mercury in retrograde. But I think, as we say, everything's a test, a lesson, a blessing. What's the fourth one?
Distraction, Hanny.
Distraction. The one I don't like the most.
Yeah, I know.
But I think as far as the integration goes, it has been so challenging to implement everything that we discovered at the retreat into real life. Yeah. Which also, I guess we could talk about what is real life.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot to jump into. But for those of you guys who are not aware, Tiffany and I, we went on a retreat in Tulum, Mexico, mid-July. It was a women's retreat, the Reborn Retreat, hosted by Morgan, our girly pop. And it was a life-changing experience. Tiffany and I both, we went through some things and had a lot of revelations and received a lot of messages, and all this information you'll get from the podcast episodes. So today we're going to be speaking about the integration of everything that we've learned from that retreat and how it was for us to come back to the 3D reality that is our everyday life, and what that process has looked like and how challenging it's been.
Yeah. So I feel like the first thing for me as far as the integration goes was, how do I release the things in my life that I felt like were keeping me stable, but also were not in my highest interest?
Yeah.
And I know you felt the same way.
Yeah.
You and I have been on this path together for a little over a year now. And since we've met each other, the name of the game has been releasing things that don't align with us and aligning with our highest path. And so within a few months, I quit my legal career. You quit your corporate job.
Girl, the job quit me. It closed down, Hanny. God was like, bloop, you're off to the races, Hanny.
Same though.
Right.
Basically, like, you're not in the corporate world anymore. And
No.
so we were like, scrounging, how do we get back to stability without having to be in these work environments that were miserable, toxic, and not aligned. And so we've continued that process after this retreat of continuing to shed, especially the jobs that don't align with us anymore, so that we can actually step into the work that we are feeling called to do. And for me, and I know for you too, that the retreat really highlighted, what is it that we're called to do? And what is it that we're supposed to be doing? And what direction do we go in? And it really was more about letting go of the fear that kept us in the things that were not aligned with us anymore.
1,000%. 1,000%. It's so interesting how you mentioned, like, the fear of leaving stability, where like neither one of us are really stable. It wasn't even the stability that those other jobs provided us. It was moreover the idea that we had stability from those jobs or from whatever belief system or whatever practice that we were engaging in during that time, because we didn't really have what it is that we truly needed in order to be able to just live a sustainable life.
Yeah.
Much less continue to add on, our service offerings and operating in a way that aligned with who we truly feel like we are as people, and also provide what it is that we want to offer the world and the community. So it's so interesting that it took that retreat for us to kind of like see things a little bit more clearly. Even though we already knew it, it just really just gave us that push, that permission slip to like actually go ahead and like take the next step.
Yeah, and I think when that's part of the process is you're like, no, I'm safe here. I'm safe at my job. Like I can't leave it, even though it might not feel right, and it's not right. You're like, but if I leave, what will happen? And then part of my process was being like, this job isn't even paying my bills.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm going into debt staying at this job.
Mm-hmm.
So like, what safety really was it providing for me? And
Exactly.
it was more so like the safety I had created in my mind of, well, this is known, this is guaranteed.
Exactly.
Versus what is unknown in the near future. Like, what is that going to bring me? Especially because the direction I was wanting to go was finding a job that was not 9 to 5 anymore, clocking in. Like, I cannot do that. I cannot do that. Like, that is not for me. I know that. So I knew that I needed time to focus on my business, on my coaching business, on my yoga instructing, on our service offerings. And I wanted the daytime to get back to my morning practices to help myself realign with the energy that I knew that I needed in order to show up in the world as my authentic self, and to also show up in these containers that I'm wanting to hold, that I am holding for others. And so I knew I needed my mornings back. So I'm like, okay, what job can I have at night? And I'm like, I'm going to return to serving. Like, I'm returning to serving where I can work my tail off for not that many hours and make money, more money than I was making. But, as with serving, it's a gamble. If you've ever been in the hospitality industry or like served, you're going to know, like, every night, every table, it's a gamble. You don't know what you're going to get. And so me taking the leap from the known, even though it was not, giving me what I needed financially, to the unknown, which I knew was going to be serving, which is super unknown every day.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what I'm going to walk home with. But so far, the integration of finding that job, being like, I want to work here, interviewing, getting the job, starting, and learning the job, and then implementing that. It's been 3 weeks, I think, in that job. And it's fine. Like, I'm abundant, and I feel like the universe is like, look, this is yours. Like, you took the right step.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've been shown that so far.
Yeah.
And I'm eternally grateful for that.
1000%.
Because it was a scary leap. It was. Even though I was not financially fully supported, or supported honestly in any way.
Yeah.
It was scary to still jump into the unknown.
Well, there's something to be said for, leaving what it is that you're comfortable with and then going into unknown, period, regardless of what that is, whether it's, a new relationship, a new job, a new hobby, trying out a new skill. Like, anytime you're actively doing something different, there's automatically going to be this like period of like like, what am I doing? Is this right? And then like your nervous system is just like, oh, I don't know if I should be doing this, because your body's trying to like protect yourself from this like triggering of no, your body just wants to keep you safe and protect you, And so anytime you're transitioning into something different, there is that fear that's there. So I commend you so much for like really like listening to the signs and like stepping through that. And I think that it's so funny for you and I to both be like really in touch with Big Daddy G, really in touch with our spirituality, and really in touch with the synchronicities that I feel like our guides are constantly providing us.
Mm-hmm.
Even though we have those deep relationships with Source, to know that it was still so scary to make that leap. And
Yeah.
also for us to, and for you as well, to decide like, okay, now is the time. Because
Mm-hmm.
everything happens in divine timing, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
if you would have made that jump before, because you've been considering leaving for quite some time,
Yeah.
and you were praying heavy of like, Big Daddy,
Show me a sign.
show me a sign. I can't do this. Like, what the fuck's going on?
Yeah.
You know, and trusting that divine timing.
Yeah. And you mentioning that, now I'm like reflecting back. I'm like, why was that the divine timing? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why did I have to hold on for a few more weeks? And now I'm kind of remembering I had that trip back home to visit
Mm-hmm.
my family
Mm-hmm.
before being propelled forward.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so it really is like, it's just like, hold on,
Mm-hmm.
trust and
Mm-hmm.
believe, and you're going to be supported.
Yep.
And everything happens when it's meant to happen and for a reason.
Yep.
And the signs will show up when they're meant to show up. It's not just like things are going to happen when they're meant to happen, but the signs too.
Yep.
Because I do find myself, and I know a lot of people in the spiritual community be like, give me one more sign.
Yep.
Give me the signs. Give me the signs. Okay, but one more sign?
Yeah.
And sometimes those signs aren't there. Like sometimes they don't come right away.
Mm-hmm.
And I also feel like if they do come and it's not quite time, they're
Mm-hmm.
like, they're tiny little signs. They're
Yeah.
like, oh, is that it?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where like more like, you know, I need a bigger sign. I need something more concrete.
Yeah.
And then the signs, once it gets like closer to the time, the signs
Yeah.
will get bigger.
Because if you would have gotten that big sign a month prior and you're like, oh, that's the sign, I quit my job. And then next thing you know, we're unemployed. Like, oh, we can't pay our bills.
Well, and also that we kind of were there for a bit. Like,
Yeah.
I know we just talked about mine of like leaving the retail 9 to 5 and
Yeah.
then being like, you know, I need this type of job where I'm working at night, making a lot of money, a little bit of time.
Mm-hmm.
But for you, your change from your job to where you're at now was,
Oh my God.
I think it involved a lot more faith for you, like a lot more, and like
1,000%.
a duration of faith.
1,000%. So there was a message that I received during the retreat of like, girlfriend, like you gotta go, like you gotta leave your job, like you can no longer continue to work this job. And for those of you who don't know, I was nannying for the sweetest little babies my whole life. I love them so much with my whole heart, and they are like family to me. The whole family is like family to me. Have been, will always be family to me.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, the time that I was spending and the energy that I was spending prevented me from being able to continue to grow in what I felt as though I was being called to offer and to lead. And first and foremost, being a yoga teacher, that's my first love, my first passion, and that's something that I really wanted to dedicate time and energy to. There wasn't really opportunity for me to be able to continue to expand and grow my classes with the schedule that I had working with the baby. And so I got the message during the retreat of like, hey, you gotta go. You gotta leave your job. And I was like, all right, universe, like, fuck it. Like, this is like, I didn't come all this way and make all these sacrifices to play it small, to play it safe. Like, if this is the message that you're giving me, and this is what you're calling me to do this work, then you're going to come through and you're going to take care of me. So as soon as I got back, literally.
It was in the retreat, remember?
Okay. So in the retreat, I had received a message from one of the other yoga teachers. Shout out Katie, Black Swan Yoga San Antonio. Love her with my whole heart.
Me too.
She's that girl.
She's that bitch.
And I had just gotten hired on at Well, no, I hadn't gotten hired on just yet.
Yeah, that was like the ball that's started
Yeah.
it, the snowball. Yeah, for
It,
sure.
it was a situation where they were just waiting for classes, and once classes became available, then hey, would be able to begin your onboarding process. But it was very clear that I still hadn't quite yet gotten the job just yet.
Mm-hmm.
And so Katie had reached out to me, and she was like, "Girl, I'm going to Europe, and I need a month's worth of classes covered. Are you down?" And I was like, "Bitch, you ain't gotta ask me twice." I literally, I was like, I think I like screamed. I was like, "Tiffany, it's happening!" And so that was huge to know that like she was even extending that offer to me.
Talk about a sign.
Yeah, that's a huge sign.
Huge sign. Because you
Yeah.
were like, you kept me like, well, I'm not hired on yet. I'm like,
Yeah.
you've got the job.
Yeah.
You've been manifesting this job at Black Swan for like a year.
Yeah.
Building playlist.
Yeah.
Of like
literally
for your
my audition.
audition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Black Swan has been like a yoga studio that I've been practicing at, and there's a whole backstory behind the importance of Black Swan to me. But it has been like a big thing for me the past like year of really wanting to offer there as a teacher. And so when the time kind of came about and getting that confirmation from Katie during class or during the retreat, I was like, oh my God, it's happening. And then boom, that started my onboarding and my teaching at Black Swan. And so that was an incredibly huge sign for sure. And I appreciated that gift from the universe. However, quitting my job and the classes that I was teaching at Black Swan, like that money financially was not the same. So I knew that even though I did receive that huge sign, I was also, I think I told you even like, where's the rest of this money going to come from? Because like, I don't got it. And if I'm leaving this job, like that's the only other money that I know that's guaranteed to come to me currently. And so regardless, I was like, well, I got to do what I got to do. And I'm trusting into the universe. So literally the day that I had gotten back, it was the day after the first day that I was with the baby. I told them that it was time for me to
fly.
Yeah,
to fly the nest.
to go, and that things are taking off in my passions and what I feel called to do and my offerings. And I've given them quite a bit of time to find a replacement because I am not that type of girl to be like, bye. But just having that conversation of like, all right, like we got to begin the transition process for me to leave and for you guys to bring in someone else. As sad and as hard as that was for me for so many reasons, but also emotionally because of the connection that I have with that family.
Mm-hmm.
But to know like I still didn't have anything else lined up for me. I had the classes that I was teaching at Black Swan. I think I was teaching one class at House of Rhythm, and I was teaching like 3 of my corporate yoga classes, which in theory like sounds like quite a bit, but financially speaking, definitely not enough to pay the bills, and definitely not enough to be able to save money. And if you're in debt and you gotta you got a little extra money you gotta come up off of, like you gotta pay your debts too. So I was just like, well, I did the thing, universe. Like, you got to come through. And boy, did the universe come through in so many ways that has actually completely overwhelmed me. Completely overwhelmed me. Since then, I now have picked up 2 extra classes at House of Rhythm. I think I was teaching like 11, 12 classes a week.
Yeah.
For last month, the month of August, and that was that was crazy, going from teaching like 4 classes to like 12.
Yeah.
And since then my classes have kind of balanced out because Katie's back, but we've also now started offering for children's yoga, which is so fulfilling. So teaching little babies and also, all the way up to elementary school, offering them all of the beauty that comes with yoga and mindfulness and meditation and breath work, like how fulfilling that is. So doing that, and then also getting a job working with you.
Yes.
Like who would have thought you got that job? And I was like, oh, like that's cute. I might just apply. And you were like, you should. And I was like, let me actually just go on and apply. And lo and behold.
So now we're both doing yoga for children.
Yep.
Our women's circle together.
Yep.
yoga instructors
Yep.
and serving at the same restaurant
And this podcast.
and this podcast.
And this podcast.
We can't get enough of each
Can't
other.
get enough of each other. So we're locked in. And the even funny thing about us getting hired on at the same restaurant is they only hired 2 people within their interview process, and we were the 2.
And they didn't know that we were like knew each other.
Yeah,
like
no.
nobody said anything.
No. I definitely didn't want to mess up your flow. I was like, let me just go in here and do this myself and see if I get this job.
Yeah.
And did. And so we were like, okay, great. So now we're working together, and it's so much fun, and it's just hilarious because we're just in there just causing a ruckus. But doing that also part-time to just, add a little extra abundance, like the opportunities came overwhelmingly. Like, I feel like the universe is like, you're going to be rewarded for your deep faith and trust in me, because I did not have any safety net. There was no safety net behind me. And that was a huge part of the integration process for me from this retreat. Something that I don't think I would have done unless I had the experiences that I had at the retreat, for sure.
Yeah, well, I think back to the oracle readings from the Joyful Shaman who was with us, and her giving her tough love to me and being like, the cards are clear, trust. There's another cricket.
That's our little
Shout
homie.
out to the muted cricket.
Yeah, muted cricket.
And her tough love and just being like, you have to go forward and you have to trust. Like, you can't, I think the main message was, you cannot have all of the answers and see the map and like have the trail of the path forward. You have to sometimes just know that if you move forward, the universe will meet you there.
Exactly. Co-creation.
Co-creating your life and moving the direction that you want to move. And if you don't move, there's nothing that can be done, really.
Yeah.
And, I think there maybe are some times where, like, the universe is like, here's this. Do you want that? Like a newspaper ad or like a job ad. Like, do you want that?
Yeah.
But if you're not moving in that direction, it's going to be really hard to notice what the signs are, to notice what direction you're supposed to go in, to trust in that, to move forward in that. But I also think that, we talk about how we had to have this trust and this surrender and this just like, listen, I have this inner knowing that I'm supposed to move in this direction, but like, how the fuck am I going to be supported in this?
Yeah.
And I think that also brought up some shadows for us as well.
Yes.
Of like, I mean, the one that I can think about is the support and leaning on others in your life. Of like, because you were really worried about the finances and like, okay, like you're giving me the sign to move this way, but like, how are you going to financially support me? Because like, although I'm in the woo woo and I'm over here being like, yeah, let's woo it up.
Yep.
But like, how am I going to 3D
How am I going to do that with $7 in my bank account?
Yeah, exactly.
And I got rent due next week.
Yeah. And thankfully I'm your landlord.
That's sugar mama right there, y'all. Sugar mama.
But yeah, no, I think that, and I'm bringing this up not to, shame you in any way.
Right.
But because I want to like applaud you and praise you for having those moments of like, what the fuck, but still going forward.
Yeah.
And to rely on your outside resources. Like for me, example, we're sitting in the women's circle and not just relying on outside resources, but like what we have to say as well. Like, sometimes when you're in the thick of it, you're like, what the fuck? But then when you have like a friend or a family member that's on the outside and they can be like, I see this clearly for you.
Yeah.
Can you trust in what I'm seeing?
Yeah.
Can you trust in what I'm saying and what I'm telling you? Because I see it unfolding for you. I see it happening for you. And I see it going this way. And even if it's like a general guidance, it's then your responsibility, if you want to trust, to believe in the people that are on the outside looking in.
Yeah.
And being like, this is the route that you need to go in. Like, I'm not like, I'm seeing it, and these are the ways that I'm seeing it.
Yeah.
unfold for you. And you did that. You were like,
Yeah.
you know what? You're right. Like, you're absolutely right. And having that trust and that faith in your
Yeah.
friends and family, their advice.
Yeah.
But also, I think alongside of that was kind of, I remember like asking you, like, hey, we've got you. Like, you are going to be held not only by the universe. Like, we clearly see the universe is trying to hold you, but you're like, I know, but in the 3D, I've got $7 in my bank account. And it's
Right.
like, but at what point do you allow other people to take care of you? Like,
Yeah.
you know, me or your mom or your friends or your family to take care of you. And I know for you, you were like, I don't want to rely on anybody else but myself. And
Yeah.
so that was another struggle that I watched you go through. But I feel like once we had that conversation,
Yeah.
you were like, okay, like you worked through that shadow. And I was really impressed
Yeah.
with that.
It was huge. Like, that was a huge, big thing for me. I think that it just comes from just seeing my mom be so independent and figuring out a way. Like, she didn't have to rely on someone. Like, could she have used the support? Absolutely. But she's a bad bitch that did it all by herself, you know, and found a way. And I was just like, I'm going to find my way
Yeah.
because I don't need anybody. Like, I am responsible for myself first and foremost, and I'm responsible for supporting others. Like, that is my whole whatever. And so to lean on my people, I lean on my people all the time emotionally, but to lean on my people in that kind of way, it was very, very hard for me.
Mm-hmm.
It was very, very hard for me. And I feel so grateful, and I don't want to get emotional, but I do. I feel so grateful to have the people that I have in my life because I think that there aren't a lot of people that have that support from the people around them, not just like, you know, I believe in you, you can do it, but like people that quite literally are like putting their money where their mouth is. Like, I believe in you, what you offer, who you are, and where you're going. I'm going to do everything in my power to help you.
You make
And
me
that,
cry.
I know, it's just, it really is. It's just so meaningful.
Yeah.
It is. And I thank you so much. And Jane and my mom and my sister and everybody who supported me in that time. It was very, very hard. It was a very, very hard time, and I didn't know how I was going to get through it. I didn't. But I knew that like something had to give.
Mm-hmm.
Something had to give. And I had to give quickly because I was losing it,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
I was. It was a very, very tough time. And so I think that's just another massive testament of just like, how bad do you want something?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
how much do you trust?
And how delulu are you going to be to get through it?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
no, I'm totally kind of kidding about
No, but
that.
it's true.
Like, you just, a lot of people would break, you know? They'd be
Yeah.
like, okay, I've been trusting, I've been seeing the signs, I've been following it for a day now, for a week now,
Yeah.
for a month now.
Yeah.
And nothing, or like, and maybe a little something, but not enough.
Yeah.
But like, you really just like kept going, and I'm so inspired by that because I know that was a huge hurdle for you.
Yeah.
And I remember because you are a pillar of our community in the spiritual world. You are such a pillar for the healing community as well. And I feel like we've talked about this before, but when I went through all my years of healing, basically cooped up in my home by myself, I kept getting the sign and words and advice from the universe of being like, great, now go integrate, go find your community, go do what you've learned so others can see and find your people to help you continue that path in the public so that you can heal not just yourself but others and hold those spaces. And when I finally stepped out and was like, okay, community, literally I pulled up to the yoga session that you were teaching.
Yeah.
And I pulled up and I parked, and then you just walked by and you looked at me and smiled, and I was like, oh, she's pretty. And you kept going. I was like, I wonder if she's gonna, I was like, I think that might be the instructor. And then you came back and I walked out and you're like, do I know you? And I was like, no, but now you do. So I feel like, and then ever since then, you know, people have been like, I've been wanting to find community. And I look over at you and I'm like, You are the leader and pillar of this community. And so if you have all of these people that are coming to you to be this leader of community and to stand in your power and in your truth, and they're relying on you, who do you rely on?
Right.
And if you're not willing to rely on others for whatever it is, whether it's money or emotional support, then you can't expect others to rely on you for anything.
Right.
Because you need to be the example of exactly what it is that you're trying to do for others. And that became abundantly clear when we had our little women's circle with me, you, and Jane.
Yeah. And that cacao that just snatched our hearts.
Yeah, I was going to say that cacao that busted our hearts open. But it was a really beautiful moment, honestly, because I do feel like for the most part you hold yourself together so well, especially in those community spaces. And because that one circle was so intimate, I feel like you were able to finally be like, okay, this is my time. Like, this is
I
where
need a moment, Hanny.
Yeah, this is where I'm breaking down and where I need support. And how brave of you to be raw and honest and truthful with yourself, and to also hear what we had to say as well. Because, you know, sometimes we're out there and our egos are like, no, I don't, that's not what I need. Or like, that doesn't feel good. I'm not going that route. But you took it and you were like, damn.
Oh yeah, okay. Y'all read me to filth for sure. Like, y'all like, bitch, this is how I see it, and this is how I feel, and this is just what it is. And I'm just like, well, goddamn.
That is.
I'm like, well, you're right. Like, this truth is truth.
That is some Aries tea right there. I will deliver the tea. I will deliver it,
and I love it,
hot and piping.
I love it.
And
I like
either
my
gonna
tea
drink
hot.
it or not.
No, I wanna slip it. Wait, that's
stupid.
Cut that. Keep it in. Cut that there. But I appreciate your words, and I appreciate the sentiment of that. Just and it's just one piece of the whole integration process, you know. But it's so crazy how just like we always talk about the red string and how everything correlates with one another. But who would have thought that shadow or that wound within me would have been, light would have been shown on it or explored if it wasn't for making this decision and that decision and that decision and that decision, and how every single choice that you make along your journey really does push you to a point. And it's like, where is that point going to be? Is that point going to be you not trusting in the universe and you ending up wherever, or is that going to be you trusting into the universe and having, like a mentee be and an emotional breakdown, but then or both, and then from that, then like flourishing like a flower and like what the phoenix rising from the ashes, and so that was a huge part of the integration process.
I'm trying to think of, like, I know that my leap from job to job was like my major integration, and I'm really honestly still integrating. I know you are too. Like, we're just now starting the serving job for the extra coins, but also we're starting the children's yoga and just really trying to energetically settle into what we've created so that we can have the energy that we need to put it back into, like, for me, my coaching, like I really need to find the energy during the day, like I said, to put it back into my website and make those connections and grow that. So it's still a process. It's
1,000%.
Not like, oh yeah, that makes sense, I'm going that route, okay, I've done it. It's like, no, like, it's still a journey. It's still a process to integrate energetically, spiritually. It's like I physically am doing it still, like I'm still trying, my body's still getting used to running around and serving and coming home at 1 a.m. And so it's definitely a change.
Yeah, I think that was a huge part of the integration process for both of us, physically, I think, and energetically. Just when we left the resort campus, because on the retreat it was literally just like us on this campus. We didn't leave the campus. We were just like holed up in our little community, in this beautiful container of like healing and spirituality and woo woo and love and abundance and women and yes, hurrah, hurrah. And,
Go
all these.
get it.
Yeah. And then we get to the airport and we're like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I don't know if you can remember like how you felt just stepping foot in the airport and just like feeling the energy of everyone that was around you, just seeing all of this, just like this craziness, just all these people just running around, shuttling around. And I remember us going to get our coffee at Starbucks while we were waiting and just being like, energetically, it doesn't even feel like we're on the same place.
No, I was out of body.
Yeah.
I remember, like, now that you're bringing it up, you've set the scene. Like, I was out of body,
Mm-hmm.
but I knew I was present. Like,
Mm-hmm.
like when you're tripping on mushrooms and
Mhm.
sometimes you look at your body, you're like, cool, you're still alive.
Yeah.
But, like, you're out of body.
You're like,
yeah, you're somewhere else. Like, that's how, I mean, I was dead sober,
mm-hmm.
but I was, and also I could feel everybody's energy. Like, I could all like see it even.
Mhm.
I feel like now that I'm thinking back, like I could see a lot of the like it was like very sharp vibrations.
Mhm.
Like there was no color to it, but
Mhm.
it was like kind of like the day at the pool when I was seeing energy on people's bodies, that like
Mhm.
their aura. It felt like that.
Mhm.
Maybe it was more of like a feeling.
Yeah.
But it was like this like hubbub buzzing,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like
It was.
kind of what you would feel normally when you go to the airport, like it's chaos.
Yeah.
But like it was like I was removed from it.
Exactly.
And I was like watching all this happen.
Yep.
And I was just like praying, like, don't let me take that on, because I knew I had cultivated and created such like a sacred energy
Mhm.
for myself that
Mhm.
I wanted to protect so bad, that I needed to.
Mhm.
And that's when I remember we were sitting there with our coffee because we had a few hours, and you were like, Tiffany, do you feel like you're here right now?
Right.
Like, do you like, you're like, I'm pretty sure you were like, I feel like I've entered another dimension.
Yep.
And it's always you that feels into it first. And then I'm like, what? And then I'm like, oh, I see, like, I see it and I feel it now.
Mhm.
Yeah, man, it was wild
Yeah.
because it was like the world, like, you know, in movies where like the world is spinning around the main characters,
Mhm.
and the main characters are just like chill.
Yeah. Just like literally existing as the watcher, like as the witness,
yeah,
watching everything else as if we're in our own bubble and everyone else is outside of that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we mentioned something about like the time.
Yes, the time. It made no sense.
Like everything was going fast.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like time was not happening.
Yeah.
It was like we were bending time in a way. Like this seems very Matrixy, which it fucking is.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was very wild. And I know I know that energy continued for at least like a few days to a week after we
Mhm.
got back.
Mhm.
And that was like the real challenge of the integration from the
Yeah.
retreat. And it's like trying to manage that energy that we cultivated into the real world.
Right.
And that is one revelation that I did have
Yeah.
while going to this other dimension of time.
Mhm.
And like of the spiritual awakening that I had,
Mhm.
was sitting there and being like, how do I integrate this into the 3D, like Earth?
Yep.
And then I'm like, is that even the real world?
Right.
Or am I in the real world where this time is really just an illusion?
Mhm.
And everyone around me is having like their
A different experience.
yeah, like their
Yeah.
conniption fits, their high anxiety, their worries.
Yeah.
And it just made me realize like I feel like all my spiritual awakenings that I've had, no matter how small or big, the main plot, the main point always is nothing actually matters. Like
Mhm.
everything that we've created, like us sitting here on this podcast, us, worrying about the next thing, us, being like, gotta clock in by 9:30 a.m.
Yeah.
All of that we've created as humans,
Yep.
as society.
Yep.
We created this system. We created time. And we created the prison that we are prisoners of.
1,000%.
And when you take a step back and
Right.
you're like, that doesn't feel good to me.
Right.
That doesn't feel right. That doesn't resonate to me. That doesn't align for me.
Right.
Why am I doing that? And who is telling me that I need to be doing that?
Right.
You just realize, like, what we've done as a society, like, not to get super, like, drab about it, but we've really created these societal expectations and ideas and beliefs of what we need to be doing and how we should be behaving.
Yep.
And that's what's real.
Right.
Is what we've created.
Right. It all exists on the same frequency level, I feel like. Like, I feel like when we came back from the retreat, we were existing on a higher vibration, energetically, physically, mentally. We were only eating whole, organic, clean, fresh food the whole time. We barely were on our cell phones, right? We were existing in Mother Nature for the duration, like the whole time. We were incorporating a whole bunch of really deep healing modalities, and we were working with shamans while we were doing that. And so what doing those things for that period of time does to the body and to the soul and into the energetics automatically is going to raise your frequency, your vibration. And so coming back to a space where the vibration is so low, where it's just anger and anxiety and sadness,
depression,
and
a feeling of lack and scarcity,
when that is not the truth of life, and I feel like if you're existing in that 3D reality, then that is going to be what you know of life. But if and when you get the opportunity to really take that step back and see through a different perspective and see through a different lens, you'll see that life really is very different than the way that we as a society are living it.
I don't know why I'm gonna cry.
And we don't know any better until we do. And that's a huge reason why we do this, right? To help people realize that the pressures of whatever the fuck has been forced down people's throat, there's no reason for it. And if you're not happy, you don't have to stay in that energy. You can find your freedom elsewhere. You can find your path elsewhere. You can find your happiness elsewhere, because it is truly like within, like it's truly everything that's around us, like you and your connection to Mother Nature. Like I've always like appreciated and respected as like, this bitch just loves the earth. She just loves her a little bit of dirt. She loves her a little bit of tree, She loves her
in
little
every
bit,
way.
yeah, she loves a little bit of mountain curvature, like love that for her, go off sis, right? But during that time, really being able to connect into the elements, like what actually is and what has actually been here since the jump.
Yeah.
And the nourishment that we receive from those things, like, wow, like it was like a flashlight of like things clicking of like, hold on, there is something very deep and very meaningful about these things. And it sounds so like woo-woo and tree hugger and hippy-dippy-doody, but in all actuality, that is truth.
That is the real.
That is the real.
That is the real world.
That is the real world. And everything else that we've built on top of it is just whatever
what we created. Like it's our creation.
Exactly.
It is literally our creation. And also how beautiful and great, that we created that. Like,
Yeah.
wow, like
Yeah.
all of this we created.
Right.
But at the same time, and that's why why I'm crying is because, like, this is our creation, but when you take a step back, your life is your creation, is what I'm trying to say. And so when you take a step back and you actually look at everything, like, we are so abundant. We have so many things to be thankful and grateful for. And mainly how beautiful this world is. Like, this earth is so stunning and so beautiful and so abundant, and everything that we have, everything that we ingest, everything that we utilize, everything that we wear is from Mother Earth. And if we could just appreciate that and how abundant we all are and how beautiful everything is, and like how that's the realness, that is the greatness of this life, this short life, if we really think about it. And it's not like this like run around, clock in, rush, anxiety, road rage, eat shit, like treat people poorly because you're so in your own mind. It's not that life. Like, we've created that, and as a society, and we can blame it on probably a handful of people that really created and implemented those things. And that could be a whole nother episode of why that happened. But it doesn't have to be like that. And we don't have to accept this as the real world.
Exactly.
And we've been programmed for so long that we do have to accept that. But there is an alternative, and there is an answer outside of that. And it's your answer's inside of you. And it's in the knowing, and it's in the trusting, and it's in the surrendering, and it's in the relying on your community and on your people. And it's in the believing and the knowing. But it takes the time of removing yourself from this real world we've created to really tap into who you are and what you feel inside, and to know and to trust that knowing. When you can finally be like, that's that. Like, this is the direction I want to go.
Right.
This is the life I want to live. This is the path I want to follow. This is what I want to do. This is my light in the world. And until you are willing to take a step back from the life that you've known your whole life, then you won't know. But you have to take that leap. Everybody needs to take that leap.
Well, and that's where people like us come in, right? To help support people along those journeys. That's quite literally why we do what we do. To help people live their life in accordance to what their truth is. Because it's different for everybody. And your life is what you make of it, right? The way that our world works very different, looks very different, and is very different than the worlds that everyone else lives in. We are surrounded by nothing but love and abundance. We are surrounded by nothing but community. We are surrounded by nothing but beautiful modalities that we can utilize to support us in our growth, in our healing, in our wellness, in our grounding, in our stability. We are held by the universe, by source, by God, goddess, they, them, Big Daddy G, whatever you want to call them.
Can it be Big Mama G?
Big Mama G, they, them, the girls, the gays, the theys, whatever it is that you align with. And that's the beauty about spirituality, is that it's not necessarily connected to one religion. It's just the true essence of whatever it is that's outside of us, because we know for a fact that there is something, and it's leading us and it's guiding us in a certain way. But that's what our world consists of. And if you want your world to consist of love of support, of help, like there are people that can support you in that way. And it's not to say like it's not going to be hard. Like,
Oh, it's so
no,
hard.
like you're still going to have challenges. You're still going to have struggles. You're still going to go through your own whatevers. But at the same time, I would rather start this journey all over again than to go back to the life that I was living.
And that's something that you proposed, I feel like a few weeks ago. Like, would you want to do this all over again, knowing how hard it is?
Yeah.
Or would you want to stay in the like mind numbing, do the same shit, not have to deal with
On
the
the rat
shadows?
race,
Yeah. And I'm like, I don't know about you,
Yeah.
but I was in a really dark place.
Yeah.
Like, even though I was mind numbing, I had hit rock bottom. So I
Yeah.
really didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
But yes, 100%, I would do it all over again. And the crazy thing is I feel like a lot of us have that started that journey and we're like, yes, I have to go this route. We didn't have anybody. I didn't have anybody. And so the beautiful thing is that the more that people like you and I are discovering their path and that they want to help others heal and grow, the more of us are out there for you to connect with. And, you know, not every, like, Kayla's not going to be for everybody. I'm not going to be for everybody. But, like, we are definitely here for the people that want us and need us.
1,000%.
To be the light, to hold the space, to help, to answer questions. And that is totally what our calling is. And I'm so proud of us for stepping into that and to continue to show up in the spaces, the retreats, the places for the people that we're feeling called to. Not my nose running.
Not this episode being emotional.
No, nobody said, nobody warned.
Integration.
It's hard. And but that is the whole point of this journey, is to integrate. You can stay in your bedroom reading all the self-help books and, you know, be by yourself. But if you're not integrating, then what is the point of that work?
Yeah.
What is the point of all the education, you know, you've given yourself if you're not leading by example?
Yeah.
Which is hard to do. You know, we're not going to be perfect every day. But having an open heart and an open mind and open ears and the support and the community that you trust is key. It's so important.
It's monumental.
You have to. And I'm so thankful for the retreat because those were our people that we needed at that time.
1,000%.
And the connections that we needed to make. And, you know, because if Joyful Shaman wasn't there to give us that tough love,
girl,
I'd still be at my job and you'd probably still be nanny.
Girl, that and then some. Shout out Joyful Shaman because that's a powerful, powerful queen.
Also, I just saw before we walked in here, she has quit her massage practice to become full-time Joyful Shaman. I know.
That makes my heart so happy.
Full circle, yeah. We all have fucking done it.
Stepped into our power and followed through with the universe.
Yeah. And, you know, I think some people or sometimes, and even myself, I might be like, did I take a step back? Like, we were working the other day, like, at the restaurant, you're like, I cannot believe I'm here in a restaurant right now. And I'm like, girl, me neither.
Yeah.
I was a full-time litigation attorney for 10 years.
Yeah.
But I knew I'd be back to serving one day because I definitely loved it and missed it.
Yeah.
But
it's for different reasons.
Yeah.
And not to say that serving is one way or the other, good, bad, whatever.
That's a career.
And you know, and people do make it because they make that money, honey.
That is a career.
And I love that. I love that so much. But when we were in the industry for different reasons.
Yes. Yeah.
And now it's come full circle because it's now propelling us, giving us the opportunity to take the next step in the in-between.
Yeah. And what a beautiful, and it's just so wild. Like, you're right. Like, where I was before, looking at, you know, as a server versus how I look at it now, is like, what a beautiful offering and opportunity in this real world to have for the stepping stone, for all the people out there that, like, need that flexibility. to do whatever it is that they need to do in their lives,
Yep.
to have that stepping stone and to have that flexibility. I'm just very grateful right now
1000%.
that this is all played out so far exactly how we needed it to.
Yep. Because as it should, as it would.
Yeah.
Well, I think that pretty much sums up the whole integration process and leads us to our next topic of conversation, which is the in-between.
The in-between. Yeah.
Because, girl, I know that the in-between be its own process. I feel like there's like the dark night of the soul, right? And then I feel like the in-between should be like popped in there as well, of like a whole essence, era, energy, time frame of someone's life.
Yeah.
Getting to and fro.
Oh, yeah.
You
I
know.
think we probably live more of our life in the in-between than in the whatever, the future or the past,
Yeah.
obviously. That is our life, is the in-between.
All
We're
of it.
always in transition.
Always.
And yeah. Yeah, that's part of the integration, huh?
That is part of the integration.
And there's a map for the, Dark Night of the Soul, shadow work. A lot of people have done some great books on that, journals that have been created, but the in-between, I ain't finding anything.
I feel like the concept of the in-between has only just now been something that I've heard of and have heard of so much here recently, because it's that cycle and that time for us.
Yeah.
So that's going to be what our next episode's about. The in-between,
The
Haney.
in-between. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you for sitting with us and holding us through our little emotional.
Like a baby.
I felt held and coddled.
I felt held, if not by you, then by them, whoever's watching this.
Yes. Thank you for your support. We thank Muted Studios, as always, for this beautiful setup and why we look so
gorgeous.
Yeah.
Gorgeous, honey.
Stunning.
Stunning. The bad bitchery. I don't know. I feel like that sounded good. I feel like I needed that.
I feel like that's a wrap.
That's a wrap. So,
toodaloo.
bye.